We should be all set, John. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
John? John Campbell?
Don Durkin can hear you, Lori.
Can everybody hear me but John?
I can hear you, yes.
Yes.
Okay.
I can hear you. I'm sorry I'm late.
All right. Apparently John can't hear me. So does somebody, John, can you hear me now?
John, can you hear anybody?
Yes, I'm here now.
Okay. All right, you're all set to start. We're recording.
Pardon me, I was sleeping. Good evening and welcome to the October 5th meeting of the Community Preservation Committee. This open meeting of the Community Preservation Committee is being conducted remotely pursuant to Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2023, an act relative to extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency, signed into law March 29, 2023. All members of the Community Preservation Committee are allowed and encouraged to participate remotely. The act allows the Community Preservation Committee to meet entirely remotely as long as reasonable public access is afforded so the public can follow along with the deliberations of the meeting. The public is encouraged to follow along using the posted agenda. Members of the public who wish to view the live stream of the meeting may do so by going to Northborough Remote Meetings on YouTube. Ensuring public access does not ensure public participation unless such participation is required by law. This meeting will not feature public comment. I would like to do a roll call of who is present. We have from the committee, Andy Dowd,
Here.
Leslie Harrison,
Here?
Sean Durkin,
Here.
Peter Martin,
Here.
Andy Clark,
Here.
and John Campbell. That is me. I'm the chair. I'm here. We also are joined by, from town staff, Lori Connors, town planning director,
Here.
and Jason Little, town accountant.
Present.
Thank you very much. Welcome all. Thanks again for making time for the meeting. We started a little late due to technical difficulties. It is 7:17. And without further ado, I'm going to turn the meeting over to Jason Little for his annual update of the CPA accounts. Thank you very much again for joining us, Jason. The floor is yours.
All right, well, thanks for having me again. I enjoy doing this presentation. I have a very short presentation to share, so I'm going to share my screen now. Let's see. There you go. This all right. Does everybody see the presentation? Is it shared on the screen? No?
Not as yet. It says you're sharing, but
Paused. Oh, hold on. It says it's paused. Resume share. Well, let me try again.
we have you. I have it up if you still have trouble. There you go.
All right. So here's the lengthy agenda. We're going to go through the revenue budget. Basically, at the end of FY23, which we're just closing, we received 38.5% reimbursement of our FY22 net levy, and we got a supplemental payment in January. For this current year, we've not received our state match yet. The most information I could find about it was that it was anticipated to be 20% this year, and that meets what our budget was that we approved for FY24. So that's fairly good news, although it's likely that there probably will be another supplemental payment that comes in, but we don't know about that now. And then we're going to talk about what the revenue budget is going to be for FY25. The other items on the agenda are the reserve fund and what's available for you to appropriate, and then what the annual obligations are for the fund, which includes the spending, the 10% spending threshold requirements, and the debt service for White Cliffs. All right. So revenue budget, this sheet's getting hard to read. We've had the CPA for quite a few years now. And again, I know John will probably make this point as well, but this represents the town has received about $3.2 million from the state trust fund that we would not have received otherwise had we not adopted the CPA. The town has also, levied approximately $9.6 million to get that, but that is $3.2 million that the town has received, and that's about a 36% match in the end. For next year, for FY25, I'm showing here an increased budget that's just increasing conservatively to be $660,000 in the net tax levy, and estimating a 25% match on the state share. So that equals a total of $820,000. And this budget is what your 10% thresholds would be based on. So that means that you'll have to spend or reserve at least $82,000 for each of the three core purposes: affordable housing, open space, and historic resources. And as you all probably know, the debt service for the White Cliffs fulfills the requirement for historic resources. So if nothing else was spent on historic resources, we will have met that requirement by paying the debt service on the White Cliffs. And again, here is the fund balances. The unreserved fund at the end of FY23 has $1,060,714. With the contribution from an article in FY24, another $77,000 was voted into the affordable housing reserve. So there's $280,000 approximately available in that affordable housing reserve. And again, what does that mean? These add up to 1.3 million plus the estimated revenue means that $2.2 million is available to appropriate at town meeting this coming year. So again, the spending reservation requirements, at least 10% for open space, historic resources, and affordable housing is required, and then not more than 5% for administration, which would be $41,000. And then we need to appropriate an amount for debt service for the White Cliffs. And this is my estimate here. I'm estimating that using a 5% interest rate, we will need $176,000 to meet the requirements to pay the debt on the White Cliffs. Only $164,000 needs to come from the CPA because we have premium reserves related to former debt issues related to the White Cliffs. So we've done this once before where we had an appropriation and a transfer from this premium reserve. And the last slide I have is just a sample article to show what that would look like. And I'm here to take any questions. This concludes my presentation. So if there are any questions, I'm happy to try to answer any of them.
Jason, thanks again. The summary is always well prepared and excellent, pretty easy to follow. I'm almost understanding them now each time you do it. Could you go back to one of the earlier slides where you do the revenue estimate for the forthcoming year.
This one here.
Sure. And I just wanted to ask you to reiterate somewhat for the record about your method of estimating the net tax levy, the estimated match, to come up with the estimated FY25 total, 820,000, from which we get our 10% minimums. That method has been approved or is conventional, if you will, for the CPA in Massachusetts?
Yeah, correct. I mean, we don't know what the match is going to be, so we want to have a bit of flexibility here in order to move the numbers around a little bit. Should we find out that the trust fund doesn't have enough money in it to fund a 25% match or less? Typically, the method is just looking at the prior year and what we budgeted for the prior year, and then increasing it a certain amount. That works, basically that's what it is just having some flexibility and budgeting in a conservative manner, so that should the trust fund not be sufficient, that we can move the numbers around and still set our tax rate in the fall.
Great, thank you for repeating that. Committee members, anyone else want to ask Jason any questions on the numbers? Please chime in.
I'm good.
With regard to the potential state match, I think you stated it about right. There's a memo from the coalition through Stuart Saganor. I think it came through in July. By the way, is every committee member getting that email directly, or should I keep forwarding it?
I think I get it directly.
I get it.
I get it directly.
Okay, good. Thank you for confirming. I think what we need to do is just make sure the coalition has our updated email addresses, particularly for any members that have changed, but I'm glad to know you got it. And I think the last one I saw was July, if I'm not mistaken, and maybe more recently, but I believe it was July. The request to add to the state fund was not part of the fiscal budget. But historically, the coalition lobbies for an additional supplement and has been successful in that in recent years. It's unknown if that'll happen this year, but given that there has been a drop in the state fund incoming revenue, somewhat due to less house transactions, real estate transactions. So they estimated a 20% match. But as we've seen the last couple of years, we got a supplement. So we'll pray for that. And otherwise, it's still a good number. And our reserves are high, partly due to our conservative planning the last year or so, and some of the projects not going through. So we have options, and that's good. We'll continue to be receptive to projects or continue to be conservative planning going forward. I got another question if no one else wants to chime in that regard. Your last slide on the potential warrant article. And I know this came up late last year, and I know you wanted to cover it this year, which is fine. So there is another reserve that we can pull from to pay that. That's the 11,359. I assume that number will stay. Do you believe the debt service number might need adjusting again as we get closer to town meeting, or are you able to fix that now?
Well, generally, as we get closer, I mean, obviously it'll be somebody's responsibility to come back and tell you if those numbers drastically change. Our stated rate on our ban is 5%. That's going to be maturing in this year. So we used 5% as the estimate for this now. So our financial advisors, the people that we work with to take our debt to market, are saying that 5% is a good estimate right now. We do have a little bit of flexibility in that number because there is some surplus within the number, but very little. But if it comes in higher than 5%, we probably would have to adjust it in the fall or something like that, but or before town meeting. But it is a pretty solid number. I think we've been able to kind of live with the numbers that have been presented at this time, like so early at this point. And we've been able to live with them and work with them going forward in the past.
Great. Thank you again for clarifying. Anyone else from the committee with any questions for Jason?
Nope.
Well, hearing none, Jason, I would like to take a moment publicly to thank you for your service to the town of Northborough. I understand you've taken a different position, and specifically your service to this committee. It's very helpful to know that we have someone behind the scenes taking care of the numbers. It's a great service to the town. The CPA has been a terrific resource for Northborough, and we will miss you. But again, I want to offer my heartfelt thanks for your service.
Thanks for the kind words, John. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thanks again for coming then, and you're welcome to hang on, but we will move on in our agenda.
And just
Okay, next up, we were going to review if we received any applications or if there are any information about applications that we expect to receive, just to have a brief discussion and vet them out a little bit. I don't know anything specific, but Laura, do you have any updates?
I have no solid updates.
Well, that's exciting. We're just going to have to wait for it all to come in. I can tell you that the Open Space Committee does plan on submitting an application for adding funds to the Conservation Fund, which that committee has sponsored traditionally almost every year. And we feel like we should never forget that much support for the CPA came from a desire for open space conservation way back at its beginning in 2004 and 2005. And we want to continue to work toward the stated goal of a reserve of 1 million or more. And there may be some opportunities coming up. So that's one I know of, at least from committees that I'm on. And I know Sean had mentioned potentially some things from rec with regard to Melican School restorations of tennis courts and basketball courts there. Possibly something with the fields as well. Sean, if you're with us, anything specific that you know about?
Yeah, the two we looked at were fencing and dugouts for both the big league size field and the softball field. One of the reasons, or the primary reason, the women's softball league has gained huge momentum and the number of towns that want to participate have increased. They did some preliminary estimates, and it was shockingly expensive. So as Parks and Rec, I think we've decided that we're going to forego that one for now and put the emphasis on redoing the fence and courts for the tennis/pickleball courts and the basketball courts. It doesn't appear financially for the CPC or Parks and Rec we wouldn't feel comfortable submitting both. So I think we're leaning towards the tennis courts.
I know you mentioned this last time too, pickleball courts. Are they creating more pickleball within the tennis court complex? Is that the plan?
No, it would just be reconfiguring. There'd be at least 2 full tennis courts, and I don't know the exact number of pickleball courts accordingly, but 4, at least 4.
But within this, the same space, now there'd be
Yeah,
pickleball
same
courts.
space. There'd be some, have to move the tennis courts towards Lincoln Street X number of feet, so the basketball court hoops would have a safe run out for underneath the basket, between the basket and the new fencing. We can't go the other way towards the field because the run out would then be into the new light posts that are there for the fields. So that you know, I think like everything would be a initial ask for engineering and estimating, that type of package, and then probably break it into a year or 2 of financing. It's probably close to a 3-year project, 2.5-year project. Scott's working on the actual proposal and numbers right now with Ally. Scott Sharpton at DPW. So that way it'll be at least a firmer number. This is a terrifying construction environment still in terms of numbers, estimates. So, of course, that comes into play.
Well, good. Sounds like good stuff though. It's such a heavily used facility over there.
Yeah, and I will say it's just way back with CPC doing irrigation and then lighting. It's become more and more heavily used for a lot of different community groups, which is great to see. It really is. The fields are in great shape. Football's using it. It's going great. Soccer uses it. So it's all good. It's a positive momentum there for that facility. Because clearly 135 is virtually at capacity regardless. So it's a good place to have as another facility.
Very good. Thanks.
All righty.
Do we know of anything coming from historical? Leslie, have you heard anything?
We're in the process of evaluating that right now.
Okay.
Nothing quite big, because since we have obviously the big stuff with White Cliffs and, but yeah, we are in the process of assessing that.
Sounds good. I believe that we're expecting something from the affordable housing area in the form of potential additional units on Boundary Street. No, I've read something about that. Yes, Larry?
I do have an update on that. It is looking likely that they may postpone their application for a year. And the reason why is because they're still trying to negotiate the sewer and water connection with the towns of Marlborough. The initial response was that they were not interested in allowing the connection. And the unfortunate aspect of that is the need to provide wells and septic systems will drastically reduce the overall number of units that can be constructed in that location. And it will also increase the cost by quite a bit. So they're still looking to see what will happen. And they'll give us an update as we get closer to the December 1 deadline.
Okay, very good. I hope that can be worked out. But at least they succeeded in the habitat project that's ongoing, so that's good. Okay, well, we will continue to look for applications and I don't have any other new information, so we can move on to the minutes and talk a little bit about the next meeting. The minutes were sent by Michelle. Thank you very much, Michelle, if you're listening. And just a minor update that I suggested was sent out to everyone today. Does anyone have any comment on the minutes? And otherwise, anybody care to vote to approve it?
I will move to approve the minutes, the latest draft of the minutes presented to the committee.
Thank you.
I will second that.
Thank you, Andy. The only update was my own clarification of text in the first paragraph, essentially with regard to our discussion around the chairmanship. That I clarified that I was willing to continue as chair, that I was not resigning, but I felt it was important to bring it up, and most boards review it each year, and I think that we should as well. So that's all I wanted to make clear in the minutes and here again. Let's have a vote on approving the minutes. All in favor, Leslie?
You're muted, Leslie.
Aye, sorry.
No problem. Sean?
Aye.
Andy Dowd?
Aye.
Peter Martin?
Aye.
John Campbell, me, yes. Andy Clark?
Yes.
Thank you. The minutes are approved. One thing in the minutes also, I should have just brought up, but we spoke about discussing a vice chair position. It's in our bylaw, by the way. I went back and looked at the original, that we are supposed to have a chair and a vice chair. But I want to defer that again until the next meeting, when hopefully we can get full membership attendance. Speaking of the next meeting, however, we talked about getting Stuart Saganor from the coalition to join us, and he has agreed to come in person on Thursday,
Wow.
November 2nd. And I think that's great.
Great.
He's an energetic guy, and I just felt it was going to be a lot more effective in person. I believe Lori is reserving the selectmen's meeting room, from which we can televise the meeting as well. Can you confirm, Lori?
Yes, the Selectmen's Meeting Room has been reserved for November 2nd, December 7th, and January 4th. And all of those meetings will be televised. I was informed that during the month of January, the Appropriations Committee will start meeting. So if we have to meet after January 4th, then chances are it will not be in that meeting room.
I understand. Well, good. That's good to hear. I believe Stuart's planning to bring a PowerPoint. So we asked for audiovisual to be available. I'm not sure I shared that with you, but it was in his email. So if you can make sure that's there. And then I asked him to focus on updates in CPA applications and more education about what's allowable, specifically in the area of historic restoration. I want to get at the root of what might be allowable with regard to White Cliffs, so that we can respond to the next phase should that come before the committee. And I expect that he will. So I think that's going to be good. I imagine that will take us for the first hour of the meeting. And then should there be any applications that come in, we can have a quick review and any other business that comes before the committee. Anybody got any questions or comments on that, November 2nd?
Only that I
No,
think
it's
it's extremely helpful. So thanks for arranging that.
Yeah, good. I'm looking forward to it too. He's very informative guy.
exciting. I like it.
Good. Well, that said, does anybody have any other information, business, news, Updates of any kind? Chime in.
I just have a quick question. I know I should know this, and I probably missed it because I have, as I mentioned at the beginning, a little distracted. What is the deadline for applications? Is November 1st? December 1st? Do we have a firm one?
We made it a rolling period, and I think is it November 30 or December 1st, Laurie? I was gonna look that up and I didn't.
Laurie,
You're muted again. It went on and off.
Sorry. I think it's December 1st, but I can quickly verify that if you want to talk
Sure.
about something else, and I can come back with an answer.
Nope, that's good to know.
And I don't feel badly that I asked.
No, I meant to look it up. We should know this, but we established sort of the rolling period, and
There must be a drop dead date, though. When's the drop dead?
yeah, I think December 1st is it.
Okay, all right.
Of course, we've been amenable to some late applications in the past, and of course, we always would consider it, but I think this works better than a hard deadline, which used to be even in the summer, right, in some years, or early September, and just wasn't enough time for preparation. So the goal was for any group, any town board to get an application ready and to vet it before any other appropriate committees, And just to give an example, should there be something in historical restoration, we've always asked that application go before the responsible board, which is our historic district commission. Bring that forward, that commission could then see if it's applicable and meets, some of the top goals that the commission already had established, rather than having something dropped in that you had no knowledge of. So if there's any applications or people listening, preparing an application in any of our 4 core areas, really, it's historic, open space, and recreation is a subset of that, and affordable housing. And should you be working on an application or crafting it, please do review it either with the appropriate board or with Lori Connors of town staff, just to make sure you're going down the right path.
So I looked up the deadline and I was off by a month. It's November 1st.
Okay. Well, very good. Be it known that we're looking for applications before our November 2nd meeting. And pass the word among town offices, of course, and I'll pass it to a few others in our community as well. I have no other business. Does anyone else? If not, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Moved.
I will second that motion.
Thank you, Leslie, and thank you, Peter. Roll call to adjourn. Leslie,
Aye.
Sean,
Aye.
Andy Dowd,
Yes.
Peter,
Aye.
Andy Clark,
Yes.
and I'll agree as well. Thanks again for coming, everybody.